What assessment has the Minister made of the appropriateness of gambling advertising and sponsorship in Welsh sport?
Thank you, Huw Irranca-Davies, for that question. In the gambling industry, sponsorship in sport, of course, is a matter for the UK Government. During the UK Government's review of the Gambling Act 2005, we had strongly advocated for a strengthening of the legislative framework, robust restrictions on gambling advertising, as well as greater protections for those vulnerable people to gambling-related harm.
That's good to hear. Look, I'm not a puritan. I've had a flutter occasionally myself, most recently on 10 quid on Wales to beat France in the Six Nations in March. It didn't end well. But increasingly, gambling nowadays is much easier to access. It's more attractive. It's more addictive to play, especially online. And reports have shown the lack of diligence by operators, affordability checks being bypassed, and the already too high limits on bets being circumvented or even ignored, as we've seen in recent reports and even fines. And we know that gambling is not victimless. Citizens' Advice has warned the Digital Culture, Media and Sport Committee in Westminster of a toxic cycle between online gambling and growing financial vulnerability. And more than a third of Citizens' Advice advisors say they're aware of people gambling to improve their financial situation. And we know from public health figures across the UK that several hundreds of people take their lives each year due to gambling debts, and the repercussions are felt right across their families and communities too. So, can I ask, in terms of football in particular, because football players are icons of sport in Wales, Premier League have said, and you're right, this falls to the UK Government, that the shirt sponsorship will end by the end of 25-26, but banner advertising may continue. What can we do here in Wales in your engagement, not just with football clubs at all levels, but all sport, to try and work with them to end this unhealthy relationship, this addiction to gambling sponsorship within Wales and across the UK?
Well, I think Huw Irranca-Davies makes some very important points there, and of course the gambling and the impact of gambling goes across many ministerial portfolios. My colleague here, the Deputy Minister, will be looking at it within her portfolio as well. The impact on society of sports gambling, advertising and sponsorship is an area that we are strongly encouraging the UK Government to address and strengthen as a matter of urgency, as part of their review of the Gambling Act 2005, which I think we're going to see probably by the end of this week. It will be published by the end of this week. And as you quite rightly pointed out, we know that children and younger adults are more likely to gamble online. And therefore they're most likely to be exposed to the online advertising to gamble. So exposure to advertising is therefore key in determining the sort of relationship that our future generations have with gambling. But it's, as colleagues will know, I'm a huge football fan, and and I've seen myself firsthand how football in particular has become inextricably linked with gambling sponsorship. Because gambling operators can offer huge amounts of money to football clubs in sponsorship compared to any other companies that offer sponsorship. And I'm aware that campaigners for gambling reform are advocating for a ban on all sports advertising sponsorship. And like you, I'm aware that the Premier League clubs have collectively agreed to withdraw gambling sponsorship from the front of their matchday shirts by the end of the 26 season. And although that is, of course, a welcome step, from my point of view, I would be urging all football clubs to do this, not just Premier League clubs, but all the League in Wales clubs as well, and do it more rapidly, and particularly for their child, junior and youth football kits. There's no reason for those advertisements to be on their clothing as well. So I would encourage also the removal of gambling sponsorship from all other parts of sports kits, from banner advertising, and suggest that sports clubs do look closely at the wider impact that gambling advertising has on their sport.